A janitor on the executive floor of a Manhattan investment firm hears a sound she's never heard in 14 years. The muffled sobbing of a man behind the CEO's closed door. For 14 years, Patricia has cleaned these floors after hours, hearing only the distant hum of servers and the clipped tones of late-night phone calls. But tonight, at 11:40 p.m., a sound cuts through the sterile silence and stops her mid-stroke.
Wait, that's not a phone call.
She sets the mop against the bucket, its drip echoing in the hallway as she strains to listen again. The sound is coming from the corner office, the one door that has always stayed closed.
14 years, and not once. A sound like that.
Through the glass wall, she sees the CEO, Edward Sinclair, his shoulders shaking in the dim light of his desk lamp.
He's crying. In all these years, I never heard a sound from him that wasn't a business deal.
She had never once stepped inside that office. But tonight, something told her she would. She pressed her ear to the cold glass of the corner office door and held her breath. This close, she heard the sobs clearly, and beneath them, a whisper of numbers, chanted in a rhythm of despair.
183. 191. 207. What could those numbers mean?
She pulled back, her mind racing. Those numbers meant something. She walked hurriedly to the water cooler. She filled a glass of water and placed it on a small plastic tray, the kind used for boardroom service. With the tray in hand, she returned to the corner office door, the numbers still clawing at her thoughts.
He's still crying. I've never once spoken to him, but I can't just walk away.
She adjusted the glass on the tray, then raised her free hand, knuckles poised an inch from the door.
Once I knock, there's no going back.
Her hand hung in the air, the silence of the executive floor pressing in as she prepared to knock. Patricia tapped twice on the glass, the sound barely a whisper in the empty hallway. The sobbing stopped. After a long, brittle silence, a voice came through the door.
"Come in."
Patricia pushed the door open and stepped into the corner office for the first time. Edward Sinclair slumped at his desk, tie loose, face ravaged, staring at her like a ghost.
I brought you water. I thought you might need it.
He looked at the glass, then back at her, his expression caught between confusion and surrender.
He doesn't even know who I am. After 14 years, he's never once seen my face.
Patricia placed the tray gently on his desk, just within his reach. Edward's hand moved slightly toward it, then stopped. The city lights flickered outside, and the room held its breath. Patricia pulled out the visitor chair and sat down, facing him squarely.
Keep your voice low. Let him see you are not a threat.
Edward's hand still hovered near the glass, but his eyes stayed locked on the dark window.
"You shouldn't be here. This isn't your problem."
Then talk to me. Tell me what is.
He raised his head, and in his eyes she saw not just grief, but a man hollowed out by years of a secret.
"You wouldn't understand. No one can. It's too late for understanding."
He's not just crying, he's already decided there's no way out. I've cleaned this office every night for 14 years. I've never once seen you like this. Something broke tonight. Tell me.
It's a problem I created. Many people have been hurt. I can't carry it anymore.
The numbers you were whispering, 183, 191, 207. What do they mean?
Edward's hands curled into fists on the desk, each number seeming to tighten the grip.
They're the tally. The number of employees I've pushed out over the years, quietly off the books.
Patricia felt the chill of those digits race down her spine. 207 people.
All over 55. I replaced them with younger hires at half the cost. The board never knew.
He described the shell accounts and phantom invoices that had funded the secret operation for 8 years.
This morning, the SEC called. They've opened a confidential probe. It's all coming down, Patricia.
Patricia said nothing, but her silence was a mirror held up to his confession. She did not look away. 14 years she had mopped these floors, and only tonight did she see the rot that had soaked into the carpet.
I thought I was protecting the firm, but I've destroyed everything. Everyone, myself.
His hand moved to the framed photograph on the corner of his desk. A younger Edward with his wife and 2 small children.
Margaret Simmons. She worked here 22 years. She trained half the analysts. I walked past her office the day they cleaned it out. She left a plant on the windowsill, still wet.
Patricia watched his composure shatter as each name peeled away another layer of his pretense.
Every year, I told myself, it was for the bottom line. It got easier. The numbers just got bigger. Then the SEC called this morning, and I knew it was over. I came here tonight to end it.
He means to kill himself. Right here, tonight. That's why he was crying.
The silence that followed was heavier than any sound in the room.
I didn't have the courage to do it, so I just sat here, counting the lives I've ruined.
Patricia did not move. She did not speak, but her stillness held a promise that she would not let go.
What were their lives worth to you, Mr. Sinclair? 207 people had families, plans, decades of experience.
I don't know. I never let myself think about it.
Then, think now. They were not just headcount. They were the lifeblood of this place. You took their futures.
I can't undo it. What's the point of living when I've destroyed so many people?
The point is to face what you've done. To take accountability. That is the only way to give their suffering meaning.
Accountability? What would that even look like? I'd rather just disappear.
Disappearing is easy. Living with the shame and trying to make it right. That's the hard thing. That's what they deserve.
His fingers brushed the glass of water she had brought. A tiny acknowledgement that perhaps there was another way.
He's not there yet, but there's a crack in the wall.
The clock showed 1:12 a.m. Patricia did not move from her chair. The night was far from over, and she would stay until the end.
Tell me about them. The people behind those numbers. Who else do you remember?
David Chen. He was a senior analyst. Peter Lawson in compliance. Esme Coyote. She was on the board. They were all brilliant. Decades of experience. I stole their futures because I could.
What happened to them after they left? Did you ever find out?
I made sure I never found out. It was easier not to picture them at home, telling their families.
But Patricia didn't need to hear it from him. She had seen the aftermath. Empty desks, nameplates removed, boxes carried to the elevator.
David Chen's office had a framed photo of his daughter on the desk. I remember carefully dusting around it.
Esme Coyote. She was one of the first, the only one who looked me in the eye and asked why.
Patricia's expression remained steady, but a flicker of something unreadable passed through her eyes. The clock ticked past 1:30. Edward reached for the water glass, and Patricia's silence filled the room.
I can't even remember half their names now. But you've been on this floor every night for 14 years. You must have seen them leave.
The question hung there, less accusation than a door swinging open.
He has no idea that I saw more than their backs disappearing into the elevator. Yes. I cleaned their offices.
She met his eyes with a new intensity, the name tag on her smock suddenly feeling heavier than a title plate.
All of them. Every single one.
Everyone. The day they emptied their desks, I was there to wipe down the surfaces and take out the trash.
The air in the room changed, a current running between them that had been dormant for 1,000 nights.
Then you knew. You knew more than I ever allowed myself to.
The clock ticked toward 2 a.m., but Patricia's silence now held a secret that demanded to be spoken.
I remember them. Every last one. 207 people. I cleaned their offices the day they were walked out. I saw their faces. Margaret Simmons. She had a peace lily on her windowsill. Watered it every morning. David Chen. His daughter's school portrait sat on the corner of his desk. I dusted around it every single week.
Edward's hand quaked above the water glass, his breath shallow and ragged.
Peter Lawson. Esme Coyote. I could read you the whole list. 207 names etched in my memory.
She hadn't stored the names for this moment. She had stored them because no one else in this building ever would.
It was my job to remove their nameplates when they were gone. I touched every one of those plaques.
Edward saw it now. The 14 years of invisible witness. The nightly inventory she had kept of his sins.
You might have tried to erase them, Mr. Sinclair, but they are burned into me.
The clock struck 2 a.m., and in the silence that followed, the janitor sat across from the CEO as the keeper of all he had tried to bury.
Benjamin Hartwell. On his file cabinet, a jar of marbles from his childhood. He told me once it was his one reminder to keep playing.
Please, stop.
Lydia Vega. She kept a handwritten thank you card from a client framed behind her desk. We changed his life, she'd say.
I can't do this.
You need to hear them. Every single one. That's the only way you'll understand what you've taken.
She did not raise her voice. She did not need to. Each name was a stone dropped into the hollow of his chest.
Thomas Reeves. He had a faded poster of the moon landing taped to his wall. Worked here 31 years before you pushed him out.
Edward's sobs were the only answer now, raw and unmoderated, a man drowning in the truth he'd avoided for a decade.
Grace Okafor. She kept a small prayer mat in her drawer. Every Monday she'd close her door for 5 minutes of quiet before the chaos started.
The clock showed 2:15 a.m., and she had not even reached the end of the third year's tally. The hours ahead would be long. At 3 a.m., after nearly an hour of unbroken recitation, Patricia's voice finally rasped into silence.
Don't stop. If you stop, I'll have nothing left but the numbers.
You've heard them. Now I need you to do something with that pain. The only way to honor those people is to confess publicly and push for their reinstatement.
Confess. To the board. They'll crucify me. I can't. I don't have the strength.
I'll walk with you. At 7 a.m., when the board meets, I'll be right beside you. You won't face them alone.
You would do that for me. After everything I've done.
I am not doing it for you. I am doing it for them. But if you stand and tell the truth, there's a chance to make things right. At least partly.
For a long moment, he stared at her. Then his shoulders sagged, and he nodded. A single exhausted movement that sealed his fate.
Then let's prepare. You'll need to write a statement. I'll help you. We have until dawn.
The clock now read 3:23 a.m. Patricia set the notepad before him, and the work of redemption began. She coached him through the statement, distilling 8 years of deceit into a confession that left no room for evasion.
Don't just confess the crime. Tell them about the people. Remind them of Margaret's wisdom, David's precision, Esme's courage.
How can I? I've never let myself see them like you did.
Then borrow my eyes. I'll tell you what I saw.
She listed their strengths, who mentored whom, who stayed late, who brought in baked goods, painting the humanity he'd erased.
I don't deserve this second chance. I don't deserve you.
It's not about deserving. It's about doing what's right. Keep writing.
At 4:30, the statement was complete. Edward set down the pen, his hand steady for the first time all night. Patricia read it through and nodded. Outside, the sky was still dark, but the plan was set. They sat in silence now. Not the silence of secrets, but of two people who knew exactly what had to be done. At 6:30, she told Edward to wash up. Then she slipped out of the corner office and down the silent hallway to the executive washroom. She splashed cold water on her face and stared into the mirror, the same face that had been invisible in this building for 14 years. Then she went to the boardroom, now filling with pale gold dawn light, and sat alone at the long, polished table.
Margaret, David, Esme, Thomas, Grace, all 207 names. They are why I am still here.
At 7 o'clock, she returned to the corner office. Edward was standing, the written statement in his hand, his eyes clearer and steadier than they had been all night.
It's time.
They walked together down the long executive hallway, past the water cooler, past the cleaning cart, still parked by the boardroom entrance. Through the glass door of the boardroom, Patricia could see Helen Roth already seated at the head of the table, papers laid out before her.
This is your one chance to make it right. Walk in there and give them the truth.
He nodded once. Patricia's hand reached for the boardroom door handle. Patricia pushed the door inward, and together they stepped into the boardroom. The morning sun sharp and unforgiving through the glass.
Mr. Sinclair, this is a closed board meeting. What is the meaning of this?
I have a confession to make. Please, allow me to speak.
He unfolded the written statement, his voice rough, but gaining strength as he laid bare every detail of the off-book layoffs, the shell accounts, the SEC investigation.
I came here last night to end my life, but this woman, this janitor, wouldn't let me. She made me face the 207 people I destroyed.
Shocked whispers rippled around the table. Helen Roth's pen clattered to the polished wood.
I resign from this firm, effective immediately. The weight of my actions belongs to me alone.
Thank you for your honesty, Edward. That couldn't have been easy.
Then her gaze shifted, past Edward to the woman in the navy smock who stood silent but steady, the invisible witness now impossible to ignore. The board fell into a heavy silence. Edward's resignation hung in the air, but the real reckoning was only beginning.
Patricia, is it? You've been here all night. Tell us in your own words, what happened? I heard him crying. I brought him water. He confessed everything. The layoffs, the SEC, his plan to end his life. I stayed with him all night. I know the names of all 207 people he let go. I cleaned their offices the day they were terminated. They deserve to be reinstated with full back pay.
The board members exchanged glances. Helen Roth leaned back in her chair, the weight of Patricia's words settling over the room.
This firm has failed its people. We need not just repentance, but systemic change. I propose an emergency motion. We create a new position, Chief People Officer. This role will oversee the reinstatement of every laid-off employee, with full back pay, and reshape our culture from the ground up. Patricia, no one in this firm knows those 207 people like you do. We need you to lead this. Will you become our first Chief People Officer? Chief People Officer. Me. After 14 years of being invisible, they're asking me to lead.
The board waited. Edward, still standing at the side, watched her with a mixture of hope and shame. Patricia lifted her chin, her answer not yet spoken, but the air had shifted. The janitor was now the one holding the room.
Before I accept, I need your promise. Full authority to bring every one of them back, with complete back pay. No obstacles.
The board members exchanged brief glances, and then, one by one, they nodded their agreement.
You have our word. The motion passes unanimously. The board trusts you, Patricia, to do what is right. Then I accept. I will serve as this firm's first Chief People Officer.
A tentative but heartfelt applause rose from the boardroom table, the sound of a new beginning. Edward, standing in the corner, let out a long, shaky breath, the first of relief in years.
I'll start today. I already memorized the first 183 after Margaret. I'll call each by name.
Helen handed her a phone, and Patricia dialed the first number from memory. Her voice steady and warm. She left the boardroom and walked the office floors she had cleaned for 14 years. Now, as their leader, by nightfall, more than 30 former employees had been contacted, many weeping as they recognized her voice. In the weeks that followed, Patricia worked 18-hour days, dialing number after number from memory.
Mr. Chen? It's Patricia, the woman who used to dust your daughter's photograph. I need to tell you something.
Shocked silence. Then a trembling voice asked how she could possibly remember that. One by one, Patricia broke through the disbelief, naming a personal detail that only a true witness could know. Edward Sinclair had disappeared from public view, but a letter he left for the board was read aloud. Patricia is the one who can repair what I broke. Give her everything she needs. Skepticism began to crumble. Former employees started walking through the doors, tentative but hopeful. They were met by Patricia, who embraced each one, welcoming them back by name. In her new office, she would place a small mark next to each returning name, a silent tally of restoration. But not every call ended with a yes. Some had moved on, others were lost, and one refused to answer at all. 3 months later, 184 employees had returned to their desks, collected their full back pay, and reclaimed their place. 23 more accepted generous settlements, their signatures sealing a formal acknowledgement of injustice. But on Patricia's list, one name remained untouched: Esme Coyote. No one had heard from her in years. Then a letter arrived, handwritten on cream paper, from Esme's daughter. My mother passed away last spring. She never stopped talking about the cleaning woman who always nodded at her.
Esme Coyote was the first to confront him. She looked him in the eye and asked why. She had more courage than any of us.
She took the letter to the board and asked that the only one who refused to come back be forever remembered. The board voted unanimously to rename the executive boardroom the Esme Coyote Boardroom. The plaque would be unveiled in a small ceremony, Patricia herself leading the dedication. Patricia looked at her list, now complete but for one, and whispered a promise. The ceremony was held in the boardroom that now bore her name. A silent crowd of returned employees and board members gathered around a draped plaque. Patricia reached out and pulled the cloth away, revealing the brass inscription that would stand as a permanent witness.
We name this room not for one person, but for all 207. Esme's courage speaks for everyone we lost and everyone we brought back.
Helen Roth stepped forward, her voice steady but thick with emotion, to read a letter that had arrived that morning. Patricia showed me that no one is invisible. This room and this firm owe their survival to her witness. The crowd was silent, many wiping their eyes, as the weight of those words settled into the room.
We remember them. Every single one. The names are now on the wall, and this room will carry her name so we never forget.
She placed her hand on the cool brass, her old janitor's name tag still pinned beneath her blazer, a reminder of where the truth had begun. The applause began softly, then grew, filling the room that had once held only his sobs and her silence. The transformation was complete. The janitor who had entered with a glass of water now stood as the heart of the firm, and the room that had witnessed the worst would forever bear the name of the bravest. Late that night, after everyone had gone home, Patricia sat alone in her office, the desk light casting a soft glow. She looked at the framed list of names, 207, each one a life she had refused to let vanish.
Esme, Margaret, David. I'll never forget.
She opened a drawer she hadn't touched since the night she heard a man sobbing. There lay her old janitor's name tag, the white plastic scuffed, the letters still reading Patricia. She placed it beside the list, like a retired soldier's badge.
That's who I was, and this is who I am.
She leaned back in her chair, the weight of the past months finally lifting into something quiet. In the offices beyond, 184 lives had been restored. 23 more had found justice at last, and for the first time in a very long time, Patricia allowed herself a small, peaceful smile. The next morning, Patricia walked the office floor she had once mopped, her footsteps now met with nods of genuine respect. Some called out, "Good morning, Patricia," and she answered each with a quiet, knowing nod. She reached the boardroom, the brass plaque now gleaming under the morning light. Patricia paused, then reached out and laid her hand on the cool metal. In the glass, her reflection stood alongside the name of Esme Coyote. She saw not two separate stories, but one, the witness and the lost, now bound together. A small, private smile crossed her lips. Behind her, the boardroom buzzed with purpose, the table now ringed by both old and new. She straightened her blazer, the janitor's tag still pinned beneath it. The plaque remained a permanent testament to the woman who refused to forget, and the many who would forever be remembered.